When I opened my eyes, there was a mirror across the bed, and I just saw this beautiful entity kind of comforting me.
Oh, wow.
And I turned and I looked, and we had this face to face, and then it just retracted into my soul. It was like my soul was comfort, or into my heart. My soul was comforting me.
Our guest is Terri Murphy, and Terri is an author, a speaker, a happiness coach, a soul entrepreneur, and she also is the author of one of her books, actually called The Journey to My Soul. And there is another one about happiness, but I'll let Terri tell us a little bit more about herself. Welcome, Terri.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here, Marcella.
Thank you. The space is yours. So just share with our audience. Who is
Okay.
Terri?
So, I'm a mother of two. I put that first because that's my pride and joy. Um, I spent 35 plus years in the automotive business in sales management. I was a corporate trainer. And most recently, my title was um, career development manager. So I did a lot of little different things, but all related to automotive world. But my book, Journey to My Soul, Following Divine Navigation, is all about my journey in the car business, but it's also about the journey within. I had the experience some time ago of seeing my own soul, and it
Mhm.
kind of just changed my perspective on life. And that's why I make putting happiness first super important, because when you are in a positive state, every outcome in life is better. Every outcome. And some days it's easier said than done. But I just know throughout my own experience that my life turned out much better than it was because I was able to do that.
Okay.
So my second book is titled 10 Minutes to a Happier You, Start Your Day in a Positive Way. And it's because over the years, so many people that I talk to or coach say, oh, I can't meditate. I can't meditate. I can't find the time. I can't shut my mind off. So 10 Minutes to a Happier You is just a book with simple exercise that you do for 3 to 5 minutes. And then you sit quietly for 3 to 5 minutes and just fill yourself with positivity. I figured everybody can spare at least 10 minutes. So the exercise kind of helps you quiet your mind. You do all these different things. It's kind of silly, but it just makes your mind, you're doing so many things that it just helps it to quiet. And
Mhm.
over time, it gets easier and easier to meditate. Meditation has changed my life.
Thank you. I love the fun and the playfulness. We're going to go there shortly, but we need to go back a little bit. It was too much
Okay.
information. And what do you mean with I have seen my soul? Share, share.
Well, I had the
I'm very curious.
experience.
Mm.
Yeah. So um, I lived through a very, very difficult emotional time. And at the end of that, after, I just, how do I start? So it was a time period of about 10 years. And when that 10 years was over, I just took that pain and pushed it down. I mean, through that pain, I learned how to be happy. I just pushed my emotions down and focused on something positive in the moment. So on the surface, I was happy, and I truly was happy. But because I had this pain, I was holding it down. I didn't realize what
Mm.
that does to you. It just, when you're filled with negativity, you don't have as much room for the positive. So
Absolutely.
even though I was truly happy, I had this pain holding down, and I held it in for 25 years because I had the limiting belief that told me that this pain is never going to go away, because that time in your life without your children is never coming back.
Mm.
And that was my belief, that pain was never going away. So I just locked it down there. It was like, and I threw away the key. And I was kind of afraid to even go there because I thought if I let those feelings out, it would destroy me. but through meditation over the years, I came to this place where I just did this 360 and these emotions came out. And that's when I started to write the book. So now my body was screaming at me. Plus, I had an accident. It was like all these things happened at one time. I was in emotional pain. Something happened with my son that was very destructive. And we were in the middle of a snowstorm in Pennsylvania and I wasn't able to get to him. And I had all these emotions and I started writing the book and I had fallen and hurt my neck. So I was just in physical pain, emotional pain. And I started writing about these emotions and stuff that I had tried to keep in for all these years. And it was like every muscle in my body was screaming, stop, stop, stop. So after about writing for 5 or 6 or 7 hours, I don't know how long it was, but I just couldn't take the pain anymore. I went and I sat in a hot tub and I soaked and I went and I sat on my bed and wrapped myself in warmth. I had a blanket around me and I just sat and I went into a meditative state.
Mm.
When I opened my eyes, there was a mirror across the bed and I just saw this beautiful entity kind of comforting me.
Oh, wow.
And I turned and I looked and we had this face to face and then it just retracted into my soul. It was like my soul was or into my heart. My soul was comforting me. And I couldn't talk about it. I couldn't talk about it for 3 days. I was just in awe. And the first person I spoke to was my son. And I told him, I said, Dan, I saw my own soul. And he said, Mom, I wouldn't tell anybody about that. So at first I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't. But then I realized like I had that experience for a reason. So it kind of changed the whole flow of my book. So my book is Journey to My Soul, Following Divine Navigation. Because when that period of 10 years ended, I was so grateful to God that it was over, that I made the decision and the intention to get to as close to the Creator as possible, as humanly possible. All right. So that had been my journey and my intention. So when that experience came to me, I just look at life differently. I see the spark of the divine in everybody's eyes that I see. We all have it within us.
Absolutely. And I love this conversation that we have because everybody has its days or its sometimes stages and long periods that we do struggle with something. We are
Yes.
not searching for answers, and it's kind of a very unusual experience where you're sharing that, you actually could see your soul. What do you believe has been the main lesson that you have learned from the struggles until that point that you've received so much love, you felt that divine guidance, and that beautiful connection with your soul?
Yeah. Well, it started when I was very young. I always had this internal knowing that, God is within us. Because when I was a child, I grew up in a Irish Catholic home. We had spirit, like pictures of the Christ child. And my girlfriend came over one day and she said, Terri, you have 37 holy pictures in your house. I'm like, I didn't realize it, but the presence was always there. And my mother would tell me when I went out to play, even if I can't see you, God is always watching you. And I would go out and I looked for that God everywhere until one day I just realized like, oh, I felt the presence within. But I learned not to talk about it because I went into my mother and we had a big picture of the Christ child over the fireplace mantle. And one day I just looked at her and I pointed, I said, why is everybody still waiting for Jesus to come?
Yeah.
And she looked at me, I said, Jesus is here, and she just went, Blah! And ran out of the room. And then when I said the same thing to my father, he said, children should be seen and not heard. So I just learned not to verbalize it.
Mm.
And then, getting older, going through like teenage years and stuff, I kind of forgot about it, or not totally aware. But when I went through this difficult time with my children, so when I was going through a divorce, what happened, like everything was tied up with my husband and his mother were in business together. So the houses, the car, everything was tied up in the business. So when we went to get divorced, it was kind of like I married him, but the three of us were getting divorced. And I made the decision, and it was a guided decision. Okay. I prayed about it. What's the best thing for my children? And he took custody of the kids. Okay. Because in order for me to get enough money to live on, I had to sue them and take a third. I did the books of the company, and I knew the financial situation. And if we did that, I would have been living on welfare, and I did not want my kids living on welfare. So I let him have the kids. And the lawyer said to me at the time, what if he ever moves? I'm like, that's not going to happen. They are tied to this business. And so for 5 or 6 years, everything was good, amicable. He would have them 3 days a week, and every other weekend I would have them 3 days a week and every other weekend. So we went back and forth. But then one day he decided to move. So they sold the business and they moved 2 hours away. And I was fit to be tied. I was so angry. I was angry at God. I was angry at the whole situation. And I didn't really have a leg to stand on. So that being said, God reminded me when I was so angry and like, why did you do this to me? You led me here. You led me here. And it was like, Terri, you prayed for what was the best decision for your kids, not for you. And I got that message loud and clear. And I just said, okay, well, if this is the case, then you're going to have to help me through, because I can't do it. I can't do it. And I prayed for death. I wanted to die because I just didn't want to wake up every morning and not have my kids there. It was too hard, and I didn't want to face that. But on the same token, I could not leave them with a suicidal mother. If I killed myself, I just came from a family of love, and I just knew that would destroy them. But if I died of natural causes, so I prayed for death, and I totally expected to die. And I wrote my kids this nice poem, and I got everything in order, and I just kept waiting. And then I call it this waiting for death period. I just went through, I was just going through the motions of life without really showing up until, so many different things happened. The rug got pulled out of me, out from under me. And that's when I got into the car business.
Terri, there was 2 hours away.
2 hours away, yeah. So I saw them on my day off. I saw them on weekends when I could. But,
How old
it's
was them?
it's not the same. They were first and third grade when they moved.
And I'm so glad you had this conversation with God, because it would have been the most silliest thing, because of a change in your life. Of course, it changed it forever. But it was something that was 2 hours away from you, that you love it so much. It was not like going to another country. And, as we know, sometimes with the divorce, this is exactly what happens. They move away to different countries and they lose totally the contact.
Right.
And it's a beautiful vulnerability story that you're sharing. I really honor and appreciate. I love the part that you shared about I was mad at God, because this is what we do as human beings,
Oh, I was so angry. But how I got through it, once I surrendered to God, and I would wake up in the morning, I would say a prayer for my kids, and then I had to switch gears. I couldn't think about them, because if I started thinking about them, I would just go down into the hole.
Yeah.
So I had to train my brain to focus on different things. So I would play games with my mind, like, okay, today, let's see how long it's going to take us to get dressed for work. And I would just narrate it. Okay, we're going to wear this. We're going to do this. On the way to work, I think, okay, let's look for everything that we can find that's blue. And I would just look for things just to keep my mind busy, kind of like you would do with a 2-year-old on a road trip.
Absolutely.
You'd have things there ready to keep them occupied. I would go to work and I would pick a word for the day. How many times can I use this word? And I'd keep track. And that's what I had to do. That's what I had to do to survive. And then, find something to be grateful for in the moment. I had to stay in the moment. And some days I didn't get out of bed, and that was the best I could do. Other days I would just be grateful that the day was over. It was, oh gosh, the emotions are coming up.
I can feel. Right. I don't want to go away yet from the story. I just, as you know, I have lost my husband, and I'm a single mother now.
I'm so sorry for that.
No, it's all right. As they say, it's life. At some point, we're all going to go into that journey. Just going back to what I said, Terri, that was only 2 hours away, because I just was feeling into it and I was thinking, oh my God, and my beloved one I can't see never ever more. Yeah. And I feel this is where sometimes people go a lot into the comparison, and I'm here very humble, listening you, feeling like completely total present, but that was your story. I'm very curious to understand what has been your perception about how maybe your kids was feeling, because I know children, they deal with situations completely different from us. I have learned that even from my kids telling me like, Mom, kids are different. We have our own way to deal with things, it's not as bad as the adults perceive things. And I was like, oh, okay. And when you're trying to help, and then you actually get some words of wisdom from that young generation. So how do you feel that it was for them, these whole
It was difficult. I mean, it was difficult for them. But, they were in a good home, and I saw them as often as I could. So we're more like friends today than, like my son says, this is my mom, these are my parents, Yeah. But, it was difficult, but we made it through. And I know we have a stronger relationship today because of that, because here's a funny story, because I was so upset the one day. My youngest son was got invited to the prom, okay, by somebody my older son was having the prom, but my younger son got invited, even though they're like 18 months apart. So they were both going to the prom this night, and I was at work, and I was like so upset. I told my boss, I'm leaving early. I left work early because I was so upset that I wasn't there. All right. So I called them, and I was on the phone with them for an hour and a half while they were getting dressed. And they were fooling around with all the antics that young boys do. And I hung up that phone feeling so grateful, because I said, now they're going to walk downstairs and take pictures, and they're going to be gone. I felt like I was there. So it was like the biggest blessing. And you just hold on to moments like that.
Yes. As parents, yes, we do, because we know those moments, they never will come back. Especially when we notice that they are on that phase that they're getting more independent, they're growing so fast, and things are just happening for them in their life, and you're thinking, okay, it looks like my job has been done. What else now? Please give me a different purpose now, living life. And how was for you that you specifically phase that there was, let's say, the change within the kids living and going to a more mature phase, and perhaps you wasn't so close to be seeing all of this?
Yeah, I mean, it was difficult, but that's why I stress today to people, focus on being happy, stay positive, no matter what's going on. Because by the time, I knew that the pain would end when they were old enough, and, my son on graduation day, Mom, come pick me up. and he came, the minute he was done high school, he came and lived with me. And eventually they both came and lived with me. And my one son is still living with me. So we've been inseparable ever since, really. Yeah. So there's good that comes out of it. That's why I harp on people being happy, because by the time that 10 years was over, I had a successful career. I had a beautiful home to share with them. I had a life. If I didn't focus on being happy and getting through that, I would have still been sitting in my little pity pot.
And this is what I love to teach people, that sometimes it's just easier when we can trust that inner guidance, trust the divine guidance, surrender to whatever it's going to be the outcome. Because now, listen to your story. It's like, wow, now you can look back and understand why on that time God said to you, I know what's better, because this is exactly what you asked. You asked it for whatever it's going to be for the highest good to happen.
Yes. So my children were in a home with two parents, even though they weren't extremely happy all the time there, but they had people that loved them. And I was still in their life, and statistics tell us that most men in jail come from a single parent home. So that told me, I'm like, oh, okay, well, then they're better off there. So they weren't with babysitters. If they were young and I was working, especially in the automotive world, they would have been, with babysitters or on their own too often.
So you are a happiness coach. I also have done a happiness coach training, but I must say I have struggled with that, because it's like, how can we all talk about this happiness? Is that even possible? While I also was going through my own pain.
Yes.
So I actually realized that happiness is moments that we cherish, that we create. Because sometimes if we rely on someone else being there for us and giving us those moments, they're not there anymore, then you're never going to find a happiness. It's always within you, like is the wisdom, is the love. But how was for you going through that journey as you was studying to be a happiness coach? What was really going on when you was learning about happiness?
When I had that cathartic release, I went through this through meditation and all, and I released all those emotions that I had held down. It was just like, now all of a sudden I was feeling everything more intense. Okay. And I realized that by holding and locking that down, it didn't stop me from being happy up here, but it stopped me from feeling things fully, and our emotions are creating our world, whether we know it or not. Our emotions, our feelings, we're magnets, and we attract things through that. So now my magnetism is stronger than it was then. But when I look back to see how I made it through, I was living, I call it hell. It was like the puzzle pieces of my life were locked together, or they didn't fit, but yet they were locked in. And that's how it felt. I was like, how is this my life? But I just had to learn to focus on something. There's always something. If you can't find anything to be grateful for, sit and take a breath. Just be grateful for the air you breathe. And yes, some days are harder than others. Like I said, some days the best I could do was just not get out of bed. Some days were that difficult. But it's just the truth. I mean, science has proven that when you are in a positive state, every outcome, is better. For sales, it's 37% higher sales. For Jet's general life, 31% better outcomes. So who doesn't want that?
Yeah. Sorry, I was smiling. I was smiling because I know there is a link between, make sure that You're having a great sexual life too, because it's also related to sales, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So, okay, let's just talk about that. How has been life for you? Having to find yourself and coming out from a relationship, have you actually managed to find that happiness where, you know, the pleasures of life and being with someone else is concerned?
Through the years, yes, I've had a very good life. You know, I've been very successful. Had a lot of wonderful free trips through sales and sales managers. You know, I've traveled the world for free. They roll out the red carpet. I've had several good relationships. Right now, I don't have the relationship, but I know that'll come in the future.
But you're happy with the relationship you have with yourself, right?
Yes, yes, I'm thrilled.
That's the
Yeah.
main thing, you know, as long as we're happy with ourselves, we can my mind is going elsewhere now.
Well, I always like to say, you know, it's not the destination, it's the journey. You know, there is no road to happiness. Happiness is the ride.
And if you know how to take yourself there, then wow, you're always
Yeah.
gonna find that point of happiness.
Yeah, because you nailed it a few minutes ago when you said, you know, happiness has to come from within. If you place your happiness like, oh, well, when I get a better job, then I'll be happy. When I make more money, when I find the perfect partner, then I'll be happy. Be happy first. Be happy first, and then you're going to attract that right partner. Or you're going to, you know, when you're in a happy place, you get there faster.
Hmm. That made me think about a situation when I was going through my early stages of grief. I had someone that really, really extremely stood up for me, and I was receiving every single week something cute on the post, you know, because that person was wants to make me feel loved. That person was want to remind me you are important to me and to many people. We need you to find yourself. And in my mind, when that first box, you know, arrived with flowers and chocolate, I was like, wow, it's like Valentine's Day. And in my mind, it's like, I will never ever receive gifts anymore because my beloved is not here anymore to cherish me, you know, to pamper me and spoil me. And then suddenly these boxes was arriving. And I remember one of my tutors from Spain. Oh my God, he sent me a big box with just the crystal itself. It was like ridiculous expensive because it was a Moldavite, you know, and he gave me all of his books, you know, signed a few other gifts. And I was like, oh my God, the universe is really, really showing me that I am worth it. There's lots of people that loves me and wants me, you know, to be well. And then I start treating myself, you know, with little things because I realized that I can never expect that the universe always will keep sending me boxes through the post. I also had to do something for me,
Yeah.
you know, and that's why I teach a lot about self-care. It's extremely important,
Yes.
you know, especially when we are going through situations that we look and we're thinking that we are alone. Maybe it's not the case. Maybe it's just that choice that we make on that time to be
Yeah.
alone, to take that time for us to reflect, to perhaps find ourselves, to sit with our pain and understand what sort of lessons God, life have tried to teach us somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
I remember once after a relationship breakup, I was really sad because, oh, I don't have anybody to bring me flowers.
Mm.
And that went on for a couple of days. And I'm like, you know, this is ridiculous. Go out and buy your own flowers. So, and that's what I did. And I almost always have fresh flowers, you know, on my table. But it's just we get in our head and, you know, stupid thoughts.
Uh, it's true. I was saying it's not the same. We buy our own flowers.
But it is. They bring me joy. Flowers and trees always like ground me.
Well, I like to say sometimes when I receive the flowers, I have the opportunity sometimes to, of course, I'm grateful, but at the same time thinking, oh, they're not my favorite. Uh, so we always have, that silliness within us, and we always have that part of us that are all trying to make us look harder inside and try
Hmm.
to find a flawness. Have you been through this phase recently, Terry?
What to get into the flow?
Yeah. Now, what I'm trying to say is that you feel like, okay, you wake up and your mood is extremely, let's say, high, and then something happens during the day, and you just feel like, oh, okay, and then you start auto sabotage yourself and put yourself down again.
Yeah, that used to happen to me. I have to say, it really doesn't anymore because I'm in that mental state or the state of awareness that the divine is within, and
Mhm.
I've learned from past experience. I'm a little older than you, so I've had a little more experience that I just trust. I trust the universe that I'm going to be things. Things always work out good for me. Put it that way. Even when something doesn't look quite like it's good, I've just learned to get to that place of acceptance. It's like, okay, where's this going to take me?
Mhm.
So I very rarely get down like that. I have to say the pain that I've been in the past couple of years does wear me down a little bit. And sometimes I'm not as happy and joyful as I am. But for the most part, I stay in a positive state,
By the way,
which I'm
you
very grateful for.
you look older than me, but you know how many lives I have lived so far. So I have someone that said that to me actually 2 days ago, and it was like, it was a 15 minutes call, and this person never have met me in person, and said, "How old are you?" I'm sure, because the amount of things that life already have, taking you through, you have been through a lot. And I was like, yeah. And I think that comes with looking back and thinking how much baggage you already have bring with you, and how long is really going to take for whatever is that stage that sometimes is going to take you to a place where you're not expecting at all, that you need to visit, to how long it takes for you to find yourself into that high position of self-empowerment again.
Hmm.
And I feel this is where most of the people struggle nowadays. When we talk about mental health, it's always about thinking on the lack, and
Thinking what?
on the lack, whatever we lack in life, and just
Hmm.
into what I don't have. And then
Right.
if we focus on the positivity and we go back to that mindfulness conversation that we have started, and the happiness one, and we just look into what is the sort of abundance that we already have around us.
Yes.
It's absolutely there, free, just waiting for us to enjoy.
Yes. I like to say practice gratitude. When you can live in a state of gratitude, gratitude is a great multiplier. The more you're grateful, the more things you have to be grateful for. So, but yeah, you're right. Most people are looking at what they don't have instead of being grateful for what they do have.
Mm.
Um, and again, a lot of this is easier said than done, especially like you mentioned with mental illness. Um, it's tough, but get outside. People need to just be outside more and get close to nature. Nature will nurture.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just amazing that, I can have the blessing to just jump into the car and just go to whatever is my favorite sea, which is the Dodo. I just love that place. And case, and just being in contact, with all the elements of nature, and just be able to recharge. And that's
Hmm.
absolutely free. Part
Yes.
of the cost of my diesel, but it's all right.
To me, that's the best medicine.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yesterday, I actually have met someone, and then he was explaining to me that he lives on a camper van now, and I was like, oh, and we're literally just coming out of the winter season. How that works for you? And he has a dog that sleeps in the van with him, and he was saying, well, you know what? I was drug addicted, and it was the plant medicine that saved me. So he had his own experience with ayahuasca, and then he decided to dedicate his whole life to ayahuasca. And then he said, my house didn't suit me anymore, my family, my friends, because I have changed, and I had to search for whatever I felt that I belonged, and then allow new friends and new people to come into my life that would accept, love, and connect with the new version of me. And I was like, wow, that is so beautiful and
Yes.
yeah, profound.
Very beautiful. Yeah.
Because when we think about the rejection and we look into examples of people that think people cannot accept the new me, people cannot accept the new identity, usually what happens there, we just planting a seed for that person to be even more rebel. Instead of just look within and thinking, this is not about them, this is about me.
Right.
About me loving and accepting myself and finding that happiness, whatever happiness will mean to them.
I like to quote something Dr. Dyer used to say that I love. Whatever anybody else thinks of you is none of your business. Doesn't matter what they think.
Yeah, I used to listen to him a lot, and yeah, this is one of the biggest lessons, really, that really stood out for me. And so let's talk about being a wise soul, because Dr. Wayne Dyer, no doubt he was an amazing wise soul.
Yes.
Any other person that you follow nowadays that you consider?
Oh, there's so many. But, you know, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and I listened to Dr. Dyer so many times. I feel like I know him personally, you know. But yeah, there's so many people. Greg Braden's one of my favorite authors. He's a scientist spiritualist, and he kind of mixes the two worlds together. And the way he just speaks, he makes it easy to understand. You know, how about you? Who do you listen to or follow?
I think you missed what I was saying. If you consider, no, I think you just missed this little part because we haven't spoken together. A part of when you see yourself in the mirror, who is the other wise soul? Would you consider yourself a wise soul?
You know, I never thought of that. I don't think of myself as a wise soul. But I do. It's like when I live consciously, conscious that the divine is within me, and I know the divine flows through me at certain times. Like I'll say something to somebody and they'll just like, wow, like how did you know to say that? And I'm like, it didn't, it just came to me. So I look at myself as a vessel for God's use. So it's like and that would be the wisdom coming through from the divine. But I don't consider myself a wise soul. If that makes sense.
It does. It does. Very humble answer. You asking about me. I like to think my dad's a very wise soul. Because it's one of those things, sometimes we see loads of people on the media and we tend to think a lot from the person without really knowing the real story, the real person. We just know the stories the person are happy to share. You know, so I like to say, you know what, my dad is everything to me. He's my hero. And in terms of follow people, I love to listen Michael Singer. I love it Wayne Dyer and Louise Ray, and those teachings are always there available to us whenever we feel that we need to go back. But apart of that, I don't know. There is a lot that I question out there. I'm a very analytical person, so
Hmm.
yeah. Well, I would love to just shift a little bit and just ask you something really silly and playful. What
Okay.
is your latest memory from the last time I've been to the zoo?
Oh boy. So this takes me, the biggest zoo memory I have is, it wasn't the last time I was at the zoo, but it was, my sister and I took our children when they were probably young, like between the ages of 10 and 14, maybe. No,
Mhm.
they were a little younger than that, maybe 8 to 12, let's
Okay.
say. So we went to the zoo one day, and there must have been love in the air because every animal, not every animal, but most of the animals were making love.
Oh, okay.
And it was just like, how do we explain this to the kids? The kids were pointing, like even the turtles.
Oh, wow.
Um, and the there was a big gorilla that was making love to himself.
Oh, right.
It was just like my sister and I looked at each other like, oh. The kids were just laughing hysterically.
Um, well, love was in there, and
Love
that
was in the air. Yes.
and clearly there was an experience that stayed within your heart. Let's put it like
It was just, I've never seen that again before. I mean, after,
that.
because, I do like to go to the zoo. My favorite animal is the giraffe. I love to watch the giraffe.
Mm. I'm talking about the heart. So do you have any personal insights or technique that you would be happy to share? How people can access their heart wisdom?
Yes, breathing exercises. So, if you breathe in and out, there's Heart Math Institute has what they call coherence, and there's a breathing technique, and they actually gave me permission to use it in my book. So you just breathe in and out, and if you can make the exhale a little longer than the inhale, and
Mm.
you picture the breath coming in and out of your heart, and it puts you in what they call a coherent state. And that taps into the wisdom of the heart, the intuitive heart, and lets the divine come through. If we can just get our head out of the way, our brain, and we're all connected all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. And to become aware, all you have to do is ask yourself, am I aware? And then all of a sudden you're aware. Think of it like this: the I in me is spirit.
Beautiful sharing. Thank you. If we look into your book, the one that's about the 10 minutes of happiness exercises, how was the process itself for you to write that book? How the creative process, I'm more interested, to be honest.
Okay, so it's funny that book um, came about from, I wrote that, I put it together. I wrote it over the years. So every day on Facebook, I do what's called Today's Fortune Cookie. Okay. And that is because I was tagged with the nickname Fortune Cookie at when I was working in the car business. Something happened, a car got damaged or something. And one of my coworkers turned to me and said, okay, Fortune Cookie, let's see you put a positive spin on this one. And when that nickname came to me, it just ignited a fire in me that I had to write. That's when I knew I was going to be a writer. But anyway, so every day on Facebook, I do a quote, a happiness quote.
Mm.
So during COVID, just to keep myself busy, I'm like, well, let's make this into a book.
All right.
And so I did the exercise on one page and the happiness quote. And I'm telling you, that took me more time than anything to get the font right, and balance it out. And I can't tell you how many hours and hours and hours I took going through the whole book, changing it, changing it, changing it. So then when it went off to press, it was too many pages and the book would have been $50. And I'm like, oh, that's way too much money. Yeah, but I can't do that. So 50, well, I'm probably exaggerating. It was probably going to be around 30 something. And I'm like, no, we can't sell it at that price. So they said, well, we'll just, and in one split second, they just combined the two things together. And I just had to laugh because it's like all that time and everything. And now it's just on one page, but it kept me busy during COVID. So I'm grateful for that.
When you say you had to go back and adjust and change, is that because you have a little bit of perfectionism there, or?
A little bit.
Hmm.
Yeah. I wanted it to be easy on the eye because, some statements were longer than others. And so you just wanted the balance.
Yeah.
And again, it took me hours and hours and hours of going through and changing it over and over again. But I'm grateful because it filled my time.
Hmm. Do you have any other book title that you would love to write about? Anything that
I'm working on one, sales. It's titled "Selling Cars is Fun and Easy," because that's something I always used to say to my training classes. But it's the rest of the stuff that you have to deal with, rejection and all that makes sales very difficult for so many people.
Paperwork, only rejection. Oh, that must be easy. All right. So where all of these sales have came into your life, do you actually feel that you have been born to be a natural saleswoman?
Yeah, I think I am naturally. I am. I didn't know that when I got into sales,
Okay.
but I was just laid off from work and I saw an ad in the paper and it said, "We will train." And I'm like, okay, I guess that's better than collecting unemployment. And I went and they hired me and they trained me. And then I ended up training. I probably trained 400 or 500 people over the years.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the secret? Because there is loads of people that struggle with sales, as you may know. So how
Well,
can
they'll have to read my book when it comes out. I'm almost
Oh
finished with it.
wow! Oh wow!
But
We're gonna do that one.
the secret to sales is number one, you have to be positive.
Mhm.
You have to believe in the product you're selling, I think. I mean, some people can sell anything to anybody, but to me, to be a good salesperson, it's just connecting with people. That's really what it is. And you have to be true to yourself. I always tell salespeople, you want to be like a chameleon. Chameleon's always true to itself, but it adapts itself to the environment. So you need to adapt yourself a little bit to each person that you're speaking with while remaining true to yourself. Because if you're not true to yourself, boy, subconsciously people pick that up. Like, what's wrong here? There's something wrong. There's something off.
And what do you think about the whole DM scripts and sales that people keep circulating on social media, Facebook, for their formula of success? What do you think about these scripts?
What I'm not sure I understand the
Okay, so
question.
when we're talking about sales, there is lots of people that already have written certain scripts, yeah, and they usually are sharing on social media and subscribe to whatever and get my sales script. And what do you think about the sales script in itself? Because
Like word track? Are you talking about word tracks?
yeah, because
Yeah.
your perspective is actually meeting people one on one, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
which we're
Well,
talking
that's what
about.
automotive sales is. You're talking to people one on one. But I think word scripts are great for like phone. And I'm a firm believer in word tracks. But if you're going to use word tracks, you have to have it memorized. It has to come out and flow. If you're in your head thinking about what you're going to say, it doesn't come off right. But I believe in word tracks for sales. I believe in word tracks for your own life.
I have seen loads and loads and loads of scripts. And I can tell when someone sends me a message if they are following one or not. And I don't even give attention. So if you're watching me and you're trying to DM me, please be authentic, be real. Don't use
Yeah.
any script whatsoever, because I'm also extremely sensitive person, so I may feel into whatever you type in there.
Yeah, I don't think word tracks work well on an email at
Mm.
all. Yeah.
Well, it has been wonderful to have you around. We're not going yet because I would love to learn from you what sort of insights. I know you have shared wonderful insights, but what sort of insights you would love to give to people that feel sometimes lost, hopeless, because you also have been there, you also have done the journey, so do I. So share a little
The
bit.
best insight I could give to anybody is to go within, learn to meditate. And, so many people say, well, I can't shut my mind off. That's okay. You don't have to. Just go in and do it. Let your thoughts go. Don't try to stop your thoughts. Don't try to control them. Just let them go. Watch them. Become the watcher and just breathe. And over time, it'll slow down and give it time. But that's the best advice I can give. And because none of us are ever alone. So when you're feeling down and out and alone, you don't have to be, but the answers come from within.
Mm, Yes. And just to add, sometimes we don't know, but we are also a role model to someone else. Even if we think that are our lowest. I had people that came in to visit me, and she'll have remembered nearly 4 years later. I came in to see you, and to be able to give you some love, and you was the one that have shared some things that was so personal to me, and I actually follow your guidance, and things have totally changed for me. So this is what I mean. Even
Yeah.
when we feel that we are not ourselves, we lost our identity, and we don't know what we're going to do in life, there's always someone watching us. And when we actually manage to do the shift, because shift will happen, then that person will
Mm-hmm.
be the person thinking, yes, I always have believed that she had the power, he had the power. People can see sometimes things on us and within our souls that when we are going through these dark nights of the soul, we cannot see ourselves. So
Yes.
always remember that you can be whoever you would love to be, but you need to find that for yourself. You need to
Yes.
understand what sort of lessons the universe, God, life are trying to teach you.
Yes.
Because when we go through these times, it's always about what have I done to deserve? Why
Mm-hmm.
God is doing this to me? Why the world's doing this to me? The government, the society. But if we actually try to remain calm, and I know it's not easy, it can just sound as words, but we just try to remain calm and think, you know what? Today's a shit day, and I'm okay with it. Tomorrow, I will make it better.
Yeah.
But today I'm allowing myself to just feel those emotions, to feel whatever is within that energy and what is that energy wants to tell you. And then
Mm-hmm.
going within, as you mentioned, then trying to figure out those answers for yourself.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. That's the beautiful thing in life is every day we get to start over again.
Sometimes not, but yes, I get where
Every
you come
day.
from.
And the thing is, if you can take responsibility for where you are in the present moment, you know, it gives you the power to change. But when you say, like, why did this happen to me? This happened to me. He did that to me. When you're the victim, you're giving away your power. You're powerless. Oh, this happened to me. I can't do anything about it. But when you say, like, okay, I don't know why I attracted this, but I brought this on, but I can change it.
Hmm. Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
just know that the world needs your light. We all are here for a reason, whether we know it or not. And we all have our own little certain perspective, and the world needs us to shine our light.
Absolutely. And just something else that just came up now, as we speak about this, how it's important sometimes to ask for help.
Yes.
And
yes.
I have a huge network of healers, and being a healer myself, going through a struggle, the importance of you find someone that you feel you can trust, that you feel you will have your back, will hold your hands and will take you through that journey until you actually find yourself again. Well, that is absolutely priceless, and I'm really, really blessed and lucky that I had loads of people that volunteered to be there for me. But just thinking about the whole healing journey, we're always going through healing. Life is always introducing to us some unexpected turning points, putting us some stones that we just wish we haven't tripped over. But yeah, it's learning to smile and learning to don't feel so anxious. That's a lesson I'm also still going through. Being a close to perfectionist person. I find sometimes difficult, to deal with that, but it's just because I just want to have the answers for everything.
Here's a lesson, because I am a perfectionist too, but my young son once turned to me and he said, "Mom, do you know the new definition of perfect?" I said, "What?" He said, "Just the way it is." So if you put that spin on it, everything is perfect just the way it is.
Yeah, no, I love that. And sometimes we look ourselves in the mirror and we're thinking, oh, that wasn't there before. Oh, what is this? And it's like, oh, it's just part of the circle of life. Tomorrow may disappear. Tomorrow another one may come on the other side. And let's just
Yes.
accept,
We're too hard on ourselves. We have to learn to love ourselves, learn to fly. First, love yourself.
Yes, and then we go back to the personal responsibility. Why sometimes we have sunspot? Well, how many hours have you exposed yourself to the sun without actually any protection?
Exactly.
So it's always trying to understand what has been your contribution to whatever was the situation. And if it was not your contribution, it was only a projection, then just a smile.
Yes.
Figure out you learned whatever you had to learn from the situation and embrace whatever life wants to give you next for you learn. Terri, thank you so much for...
Oh, Marcel, it's been a joy. Thank you for having me. I'm honored.
Honestly, I very much enjoyed. I believe there is lots of insights and lots of inspirational, nuggets that people can take from these beautiful episodes. And I absolutely love, honor, and appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching us. And Terri, where people can find you?
My website is www.thinkhappybehappy.com.
Wonderful. And be happy. Whatever life introduced to you, be happy. Know you're loved. We certainly love you very much. Bye for now.
Bye.